8 years.
Happy anniversary, Renew.
We here, man. Happy anniversary, Renew Church. We in there. You know what we're going to do today? We're going to take a real quick trip down memory lane and talk about God's faithfulness. Let's go.
And I will trust you, and I will trust you. In your presence, I will dwell in the shelter.
So the living room for me honestly was a blur because I had a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 3-month-old, and someone decides to start a church in my house.
Who was 3 months?
With a 3-month-old.
Ethan?
Amen.
Well, you know, first of all, I didn't decide to do anything. The Lord decided to impress upon us collectively.
I think my most memorable moment will always be the day we were worshiping and praying, and I received a prophecy about who I was and the part that I would play at Renew Church at the time. And I had never experienced that before, especially with my upbringing, my background. I had never really understood it, but I received an amazing word that day. I had so many questions, and I remember the feeling going back home and journaling immediately to ask God a plethora of questions, because I just wanted to know, like, out of all the things, me, like, Pastor Greg said those things about me. Like, how are you going to use me, Lord, to do that work when I don't think I'm qualified enough for it? So that was it was one of the most pivotal moments in what we are doing here at Renew Church for me, because I knew that at that time that God had made a decision that this was truly where his work was supposed to be done.
We met on Friday nights because everybody was working, everybody had jobs, and that's literally the only night.
Everybody still working, have jobs.
Yeah, we all got jobs. But what I'm saying is, we needed a night where we can gather and cast vision about what the Lord would do through this new vision of Renew Church.
That living room, it was a significant place. It was a good part about it, but he moved us from there pretty quickly to that auditorium.
So the theater, still on Friday nights, still after getting off work, driving to a town that nobody lived in. God had a plan. Scary, a lot of unknowns, but was our first step out of coming out of meeting in our house.
Yeah, the theater was. We moved to the theater not because of the building, but because of the neighborhood. We found out that the Brandywine neighborhood in Villa Park was one of the most diverse areas in the western suburbs, and we had a vision to have a church of diversity. Although we weren't fully committed to being a multi-ethnic church like we are today, at the time we wanted to be in a space where it wasn't one culture or one color or one ethnic group.
The theater, that was probably, I would say, probably the hardest point for me, because I didn't see a lot of what God was doing, but he was still working it out.
He was.
Behind the scenes. I didn't see it, but he was still working it out, and I still had to stay grounded and rooted, and my faith had to be there.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't give up, because like I say, I didn't see, man, how is this going to work?
The kind of faith it took to be at the theater, it took every day, every moment. One of my most fondest memories is, there was one particular night where we didn't have a lot of people show up to the theater, y'all. It was probably like five. It was probably like 5 people, maybe 6. And with all of our families combined, it had to be a little bit more than that. And, and so to encourage ourselves, as David had to encourage himself in the Lord, to encourage ourselves, Pastor Greg asked, he's like, everybody get your chair, bring it to the main floor, now put your chairs together. And I'm telling you, that room went from feeling void and formless to full with just 10 people just by coming together. And but it was prophetic. It was, it was funny, but it was a prophetic act that really signified that when you come together in unity with one vision, planting seeds, that God He's the one that's going to give it the increase. He's going to make it grow.
And that's when we began to really birth our Renew Kids. And Dana used to take our kids sometimes in the hallway, and we would do we just did the best we can what we had. Excellence for us means doing the best you can with what you have right now. And I'm proud of that season in the theater where our church began to become a touch point to those in the neighborhood. All right, Calvary. Lord Jesus Calvary Episcopal Church.
Oh my God, Calvary.
It was wonderful.
We were in the little bitty room at Calvary, and literally, I think it was about 10 to 15 people there. I was leading worship at the time with Chris Mitchell, and Chris Lahone was on the guitar just strumming his heart out. And we would meet consistently to rehearse, and day in and day out.
This was the place where we began to come to life as a community that worshiped together. The theater was where we began to touch the neighborhood together, and Calvary is where we began to worship more fully together. More people were coming to our church. We were gathering more frequently. We had a little more access to the
Calvary
building.
was also where we moved to Sunday, even though we had gotten pretty used to Friday, although it was very few of us on Fridays. A lot of us got used to having church on Friday, and it kind of ended up being kind of nice. So when we moved to Calvary and moved to Sunday, it was a little like, okay, wait, maybe Friday wasn't so bad. But
yeah, that's true.
That multi-purpose room, Lord have mercy, we had prayer nights and worship nights and service, and I think that's also where I was installed as the drummer for a few weeks in that multi-purpose room. And man, some amazing things happened. The love that happened in that room, and I'm telling you, it was phenomenal.
Calvary was where we had one of our biggest attended services. Like, I remember the picture.
We had clocked an attendance of about maybe 60, and we were oh my gosh, we thought we had broke through a ceiling because we were like, wow, we're a real church. We had more than 50 people outside of our own families. And literally the Sunday of that anniversary service, we found ourselves in the pandemic.
Our anniversary service for that year, turning 2.
We turned 2 that year. Yep.
Turning 2. Or was it 1? I don't know. I taught kindergarten. I don't do math well. Whatever year we turned, we had our anniversary service. And then that next day, right? That next day were when the shutdown orders were put in place.
Our family is broken. We're all separated. We are all individual. We can't see each other. So to go to an isolated church was hard because my church is family.
We hadn't touched or seen people in months and months and months, and just trying to keep this church together at the time was a task. But we stayed prayerful and we stayed positive in that God was going to sustain the vision that He gave us in spite of all that was going on. And so Calvary is very pivotal in that.
The faith that we had sustained us through that, because when we would come in and still record the sessions, we would still have fun and we would still believe in God. And we were just doing it like, okay, we got to get this recording done.
Oh my God.
And we getting it out there.
The
And I can say at
recordings.
that point, I didn't sense any nervousness amongst anybody because we came in, we recorded it, they did what they had to do.
Family, welcome to Renew Church. We are back this morning, and I am so excited just to be in worship with you in the virtual space. I hope that you experience the presence of God from our worship team, who does a phenomenal job. We're just thankful to be together in community this morning. And listen, no physical location is going to stop us from honoring God together.
Listen, grab your coffee, your donut, your Little Debbie's honey bun, whatever it is that you drink with your coffee. We're going to definitely jump into a pre-service hang.
I wore my Superman shirt because every Superman started with a supermom. And so we want to say happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Did you like that, bro? That was...
It's a little corny, but yeah.
Was it corny? Was that a dad joke? It may have been.
Grateful for Northern Seminary, who opened their doors to us towards the end of COVID, giving us an opportunity to continue what God would want to do in Renew Church. And a lot of people do not know this, and I may have mentioned this before in church, but the reality is when it was post-COVID and we got to Northern, we really relaunched the church.
Yeah.
And then we moved again for the third time. Now we're moving to Northern Seminary, where Pastor Greg works, and we're moving into another smaller building.
So we got in a group, 25 of us, year 3 or so of the church, three or 4, something like that, maybe year 3, and we said we're gonna relaunch Renew Church. It won't be public, but internally, we're gonna start over and see how God would use us on the other side of this pandemic. And those faithful 25 people leaned in and said, we're all in on this, and the rest is history from there.
Yeah.
We were scared to death to go to Westmont.
Very much.
And so it really was an act of faith. I had some apprehension just because I was unfamiliar with the neighborhood, unfamiliar with the people, didn't really know if our ministry would fit this context, but the Lord opened up a space for us to be more permanent. And so what do? You just follow God, and you just step out in the water and just trust that maybe He has a plan. God will always lead you into what seems obscure to you, and it seems unorthodox to you, yet it's often a part of His dynamic plan for a community, for a people, or for your own personal life. And so you never underestimate the unknown. You can never underplay the obscure, because when we came here, it was a strange land, but God had a plan for Westmont, Illinois.
Yeah. And in that plan included things like a pandemic to hit right after our most attended Sunday in Renew history, but still a plan.
God still has a plan. I want to remind us that God has us in Westmont, not to be a specific answer to something. He has us in Westmont to join in with what He's already been answering for generations here in this community. That's why God brought us here, and we're starting to see more and more as we claim feels like home, that God has called this church for such a time as this, in this generation, for this moment, to continue His work that He started a long time ago. All right, come here. I had to kick Crystal out because I want to make this announcement to y'all, me, to you, right here, right now. For the last year and a half, we have been declaring together, and we have been sowing together around this idea of feels like home. Westmont feels like home. This building feels like home. But family, listen, we're no longer saying that because it's no longer relevant. It no longer feels like home. We are home. Congratulations, Renew Church. You and I have come together to finally purchase our first property as a church. And we are in Westmont to stay. And God has done a great thing. We should celebrate right now that God has given us this place for the glory of his kingdom and for the future of Westmont and Renew Church. Come on, let's celebrate right now. Again, it no longer feels like home. We are home.